Yo, what's up guys, SavageHerobrine here, and I've returned from my long hiatus. And for the last few months, I've been having to do online schooling, which has just been atrocious. It's just
not good.
First gripe with online schooling is the schedule. There is just no need whatsoever for it to be 6 hours long. Like, why would I have to go from class to class from 7:40 a.m. to 2:40 p.m.? It makes no sense. Why can't I just be given like random assignments on Google Classroom, and then by the end of the day I have to get it all done? Why can't I just do it at my own leisure? Why is it like constrained to like 40-minute periods? And also, originally I was told that it would only be a half hour long for each period. So it's even more ridiculous. Like, it's so stupid. Why is it even like that? Because by the end of the day, you're just a brain dead lobotomized zombie because of how tired you freaking are. And what makes it even worse is the fact that if the classes were 30 minutes like they were supposed to, and there were no like lunch breaks or like 5-minute breaks in between each period, then school would end at 11:40. Which would then greatly reduce the school day from 6 hours to 4 hours. So why wouldn't you just go with that? That's a way better schedule, and it's way shorter. If you're trying to make a schedule, just do it that way, instead of extending it and dragging it out because of all these breaks and a lunch break. And because of that, the schedule is fundamentally flawed. Either way, I'm just going to dive into classes that I had to endure during those few months. Band. And band, I usually just have to wake up at 7:40 a.m., which is frustrating because I would rather just sleep in. But besides that, we just have to do like a Google Meet usually, and we don't really do it for that long, so it's fine. But what really bothers me about this class is the assignments. So for example, one of the first assignments we were assigned was a bingo card. And usually with a bingo card, you would just have to do like certain things until you get a bingo. But for me, I had to do all these things for band, but it didn't just end there when I got a bingo. No, we had to do every single assignment that was on this bingo card, which is just ridiculous. And at that point, it's not even a bingo card. It's just a list of chores to do while you're at home and during band or whatever. And just look at some of these assignments that I've had to do. For example, I would have to find a YouTube video with over 5,000 views of just some drummer drumming. And the best candidate for that is, of course, Donald Duck. Because if you didn't know, from the Mickey Mouse lore, he is actually a very talented drummer. So this is indeed a true fact. And then I would have assignments where I have to do stuff like play for my pet. And I don't have a pet. So I crafted this masterpiece, this work of art right here. And then I would also have to journey into the depths of YouTube to find a song for my band to play. And I chose the Sonic rap. Yep, this song deserves a Grammy for its intricate lyrics about Sonic speed.
You're too slow. Come on, step it up.
The most devious offender, of course, is the fact that we have to play outside to complete this bingo card and get 100% on this assignment. But why? That just contradicts the whole point while we're doing online school and why there's even a lockdown or quarantine. It's because you shouldn't be going outside because you can get coronavirus. So why do we have to go outside? And no one's going to be out there. No one's going to give us applause. So at the end of the day, it's just a waste of my time. But the worst part about this whole thing is the fact that I couldn't get 100% because it asked me to play on the bells. But the thing is, I don't own bells. So at the end of the day, I only got 75% on this assignment. But outside of that, we would also have to do stuff such as these rhythmic equation sheets, which are basically what a kindergartner would think is algebra. And doing these sheets didn't add any educational value from it. I've gained nothing from doing any of this stuff. So that's basically all those gripes that I have for band. But now let's go on to the next class. Let's go! PE is the best class. It is goated. Because we only have to answer one attendance question and then I can go to sleep till history. In history, I mainly just learned about the Vietnam War and how JFK is mentally challenged, and learned about the sacred deep history and lore about baby boomers, and how back in the old days they would abuse dogs and PETA hates them. And then my history teacher would then have to explain that he is not a baby boomer, but in fact a hipster millennial, which is wrong. He's actually a hippie exennial according to Wikipedia, which is good because as Martin Luther King Jr. once said,
I wish I could round up all millennials and forcibly sterilize them so they can never reproduce.
During our days in history, we would also have to do stuff such as answer warm-up questions, which is fine, but some people were unable to open images on their phone. And this is when I realized that they were not using average phones, but in fact using the Soldier Boy phone. A phone so powerful that Google cannot comprehend to open up these images. And in the comments, people would be throwing lethal insults at each other. For example, in this scene right here. Our teacher is just saying that classwork will be put up soon. So then Sam would casually reply with, okay. But little did he know that Caleb would then swoop in, reply to him, and then end his whole career by saying these 3 words. Sam, you Enar! Very clever and philosophical reference to the soccer player Enar Jaeger, a talentless soccer player who sold himself out to play FIFA. There's not really much to say about my digital video class, outside the fact that we had to make a bunch of low-budget YouTube videos. For example, we all plagiarized this YouTuber, and then we made our own board game videos. For me, I did Stratego. That was a grave mistake. Should have done Shrek Scrabble. Now we move on to the pointless lunch break. Man, if the schedule was only like 30 minutes for each class, this lunch break would be non-existent, which is great because of the amount of stress that you have during this time. Because like I would get stressed out because I would have science after lunch, and things we have to do a Google Meet at 11:30. So then I would just have to pay attention to the clock, waiting until that class starts. But the wait, of course, would not be worth it due to the fact that I've had to endure many horrors and crap from this stupid physical science class. Oh my, this class is just a pure atrocity. So first off, the class of course starts at 11:30 and we start off with a Google Meet. Which is annoying because usually for normal classes, we would just have to answer like a question or something for attendance. But instead we have to do a Google Meet. And usually when we do a Google Meet in a class, we would like learn something that will help us in our class. But nope, not for science. We've learned nothing. And for the whole span of the online class, we're only on the exact same chapter that we've been on since March. Like, look at this kid on the Google Meet. Look at this poor, innocent kid. He is completely traumatized as science slowly sucks his soul away as he becomes a lifeless husk. Then we have the few fortunate lucky souls that were actually bailing the class, and then there's some more Soldier Boy phone users. But then outside the Google Meets, there goes the veracity of the assignments we have to do in this class. One of our first assignments was to go to this ghetto word art website and then make a freaking plane out of all the vocabulary words for the chapter, and then print it out and take a picture of it on our science binder. Like, what is the point of this? Why are we going to this ghetto website, and why are we having to take a picture? What do I gain from this? What do I gain on an educational level outside of it, me learning that I'm wasting my time with this class? Then for the first few weeks, we would then have to attend some lectures on Google Meet, and in these lectures, of course, we have to answer some questions, but then we'd also get assignments on these lectures, and then we'd have to watch it. Vsauce videos. But the worst offender of all these assignments are the labs that we were forced to do. The first lab that we had to do was make a catapult lab. Thankfully, our school provided the material so that we could actually make the lab, which led me to believe that this was supposed to be the only lab we were going to do, which was fine, you know, because it was a very simple lab. But then it got even worse the following weeks. Introducing the Simple Machine Scavenger Hunts. First few things to know to show you how rubbish this whole assignment is. First of all, we have to find stuff such as a lever or like an inclined plane or a wheel and axle, but that's not what a simple machine is. A simple machine would just be like a normal like lever, just one machine. This would create a compound machine. For example, scissors are a compound machine because it uses like all these things here. But why on earth are we supposed to look for all these things around our house? It's complete Bolshevik too. Because of the fact that, like, for example, if I'm trying to find a lever, it has to start with the letter S, C, or P. And not only that, it has to be made out of wood or metal. So that meant that I actually had to go to a freaking store like Walmart and actually buy something that would actually work and fit into this category and could be used as a lever. Then we talk about the mechanical advantage of it, and then we have to post a picture of what it is. I begin with the letter W. What? No! why? So you just find like a Lego wheel? Does that work? Sadly, I could not. I had to find this bucket with a bunch of wheels, and then also stuff like incline plane. I didn't know what to find, so I just found a binder because it started with a B. So what is the point of this? What do I learn from finding objects that start with a certain letter? And why is it specifically for a lever that has to be made out of wood or metal? It makes no sense. Who cares what the lever is made out of? Why does it matter? And it's not a simple machine or anything. What is this bullcrap that I have to endure? Why do I have to do this?
You're tearing it apart!
But then a few weeks later, after I thought I was free from these crappy assignments, strikes again with a compound machine assignment. But I don't understand. We made a compound machine. We had to use like an inclined plane, a lever, wheel, and axle for our machine last time. So what do you mean compound machine? You do not even know science. That is not what a compound machine is. We already made one. What are you talking about? Why do we have to make another one? What we made last time was not a simple machine. Why are you trying to scam me? Make me do more work than I would actually have to do. What are you doing? What drugs are you taking?
What kind of drugs do you take?
Why are you making us do this? What is this bullcrap? And what makes it even more dumb is the fact that for our compound machine, we used to combine our catapult lab with our simple machine lab, or as it's called, because it's actually a compound machine. But either way, why are we combining these two different machines? For me, it sort of is supposed to be like a catapult anyway, so it's catapult stuff, and theoretically. But what if somebody made something completely different? How would you attach the catapult? For me, I just strung like a rubber band and then I connected it to the lever, aka broomstick, of the machine. Then, the very last assignment I had to be subjected to, which was a page-long paragraph about compound machines, which I chose to do for my topic. And this was 1 out of 3 of the options that we could take for a final project. Because for online schooling, for my school, at least we didn't have to do any final exams. So instead we had to do stuff like this. But for some bizarre degenerative reason, we weren't allowed to work on it at our own pace, which meant that we had to turn in like a milestone version of our project with at the very least, at minimum, half of it done. And I had to have at the very least 3 sources for some reason for what I'm talking about, which I did. I had like 2 sources, but then for some stupid reason, he didn't even give me 100% on the milestone update assignment. Instead, he gave me like an 85, even though that makes no sense. If you look at it here, you can clearly see that this is more than half of the project, which leaves me to believe that has dyslexia. And regarding the score that he gave me,
Nope, you are nitpicking and biased. I win. Bye-bye.
what's really annoying about English is the fact that before we had online school, we were reading The Giver. So I didn't want to actually have to do any work in English. So I read the whole Giver book. Then we had this Giver packet, and I completed this whole Giver packet. But then when I come to online school,
Psych! That's the wrong number!
it's worth 0 points. 0. Nada. It's freaking ridiculous. And I hated that. Like, at least give me, like, a few extra credit points. Because, I mean, like, come on. This thing was worth 200 points, and I get 0 points out of it. But the thing is, I did this whole packet. Why can't I at least get something out of it? And then there's this one time where I upload the Google Docs for all the Spark notes on The Giver, and then I gave it my classic 0 out of 10 review. Every chapter of The Giver exposed, I give it a strong 0 out of 10. Didn't enjoy the part when they deported a baby into the trash for being fat trash, and when Jonas tries stealing Fiona, the wife of Shrek. Typical hipster millennials. Then my teacher responded with, "No, you are 0 out of 10. You are expelled for anti-de-establishmentarianism, book slander." She actually just basically agreed with me in the end. But then there's this kid here who freaking is an idiot. Like, why wouldn't you read this Google Doc? It's basically all the Spark notes, except it's all in one page. So what are you talking about, mate? And also during our English period, we would also occasionally have attendance questions. And we have a question, for example, this one right here, where Sam is being a degenerative enar and then votes for himself. Like, it then has the sheer audacity to harass others and call people enars, even though his comment
didn't just die, it was murdered.
So now I will deport this salty little boy
off the internet. Why are you gay?
What are you doing in my swamp?
Hey boys, we did it. Racism is no more.
Then we have questions like this. If you were an animal, what would you be? With people coming with thought-provoking, deep answers such as although I'm not very good, I enjoy playing football. And a teacher might be genuinely confused from looking at a comment like this, and that the answer doesn't even remotely relate to the question, but through the power of my 2020 vision, we can actually see what this person is saying and deduce that is actually a deep, thought-provoking, intertwined reference to King Julian from the Penguins of Madagascar. And this is further supported by the fact that this is a simile to King Julian, because in fact it's not talking about American football, but in fact soccer. And who plays soccer? King Julian in the Madagascar 2 game. Now after we're done answering the attendance question, usually we would have to do one of two things. The first thing is write a paragraph about the giver, because for some ungodly satanic reason we had to do more than like 8 paragraphs on the giver. I luckily got 100% on every single one of them, but it was very tedious. However, it's nothing compared to North Korean educational classes of IXL. IXL is the crappiest, and I mean it, website I've ever done for any school whatsoever. It is just terrible. It brainwashes you to believe that burritos are in fact sandwiches.
No, they're not, you idiotic hares.
And in terms of my English class, we had to do IXL for 1 hour per week. So basically, we have to do something called Diagnostic Arena. And Diagnostic Arena supposedly tracks where you are on an educational level, which is first of all a flat out lie. For example, I'm in 8th grade and I maxed out 2 of the categories that you could max out, and overall apparently I'm working on the 12th grade level, though I'm in 8th grade, which makes no sense whatsoever. And in IXL Diagnostic Arena, it mainly works like a trivia game at the end of the day. Like if I get something like, for example, I get 1 problem wrong and I get like 19 right, it will then go
Pulverized
down to the next grade below, which in my opinion makes the system flawed due to the fact that, for example, I'm in 8th grade right now. If I take a quiz and I fail the quiz, that does not mean I'm working at a 7th grade level. And if I fail multiple quizzes, that does not mean I'm working at a preschooler level. But apparently, this IXL system only works like a trivia system. It works like a
weak shovelware game
in terms of how crappy it is. And it's completely useless to use for English. But then it diminishes inequality even more because of the fact that, like I said earlier, we have to IXL 1 hour per week. But the thing is, it doesn't track down like how long you've done it accurately enough. For example, if I'm on a question for 10 minutes, once I finish the question, it will then tell me that I've only been on IXL for 2 minutes, which is not true whatsoever.
So screw you, IXL.
In Bible, I have to answer a bunch of questions every single time we have class, and thankfully we don't have a Google Meet or anything, but for some
ungodly reason,
we had to make videos of ourselves, like saying stuff such as like certain Bible verses. Just because we don't have a quiz on a Bible verse does not mean you have to assign something about the Bible verse, especially since you're still counting this as a quiz, which makes no sense whatsoever. And we also had 2 Bible projects on top of all that stuff. One time I was answering one of the questions and put a link to this YouTube video, and then I said that it was apparently a very good audiobook, and then my teacher looked at this video and said,
"Why is he screaming? What is he doing? Is he trying to do this for attention or something?"
Which then produced the startling revelation that he was not in fact a Baptist Christian, but in fact a devious Mormon.
Coitus.
Algebra 1. We begin by answering a simple attendance question, such as discussing our favorite breakfast food, which is of course
bat soup.
Also, for some reason, we have to take class notes on videos that are put up on our Google Classroom, and then we have to turn them in by the end of the day. Which is super frustrating, because, like, why are we expected to actually turn in class notes? Like, wouldn't you know that we understood the lesson if we actually turned in our homework? And speaking about homework, we also had to do some more freaking
IXL.
And another problem with IXL is the fact that the questions are way too simple. Where in areas on a quiz, these questions would be way more complex and more difficult than on the homework, which is also infuriating because you are just simply not properly prepared for quizzes or tests and are more likely to fail. The most ridiculous thing in this class, however, is the fact that we had to download Zoom. Which in actuality doesn't even make any sense, because the fact that in every other class, if we were going to do something like that, we would just do it in a Google Meet or something. And Zoom is just overall really crappy. And for our last day of school, instead of doing a Zoom call like we did the last class, because we did a Zoom call talking about our final project, which I'll talk about in a little bit. By the way, we had to do a Zoom call, and then our final day of school, we didn't even do a Zoom call. We did Google Classroom. So it's even weirder to me that we'd actually be using Zoom if for most of the time we'd actually be using Google Classroom. And most of the time during class, we would just get people putting up green screens of Kim Kardashian. Then, at the end of the school year, instead of doing an exam, we had this final project similar to science. However, for this final project, we had to choose a career and then answer all these freaking pages out. And the thing is, it's so freaking long. And the thing is, this isn't even Algebra 1 stuff. This isn't a review or anything. So why are we even doing this? What is the
Educational benefit
from even doing all this work outside of you being able to get a good grade from it? And for me, I had to do all of this, and for me, I chose a truck driver to deliver a bunch of Jimmy Neutron Happy Meals. But unfortunately, apparently we had to work in every single question, which means I only got a 75% on this whole thing. But why is it that on this question, it asks you to show your work if you're supposed to show work in every single question? It doesn't even say that on any of the pages. So why is it that specifically on this question, it will ask you to? Usually, however, when we didn't have any final projects or any Zoom meetings or any class work that we had to do that I had to do at 2:40 p.m., I mainly just use this time after Bible to then just revive my sanity and actually get some sleep. That's basically all the stuff that I had to endure from April 14th all the way to May 21st. And that is my online school experience.
The mission. The nightmares. Finally.
And hopefully it stays like that.
No!
I don't feel so good.
That better not be the case, because even if I don't really like school, online schooling is just complete garbage. It's bullcrap. It's terrible. It's atrocious. It's awful. It's just torturous. So hopefully that'll be the last of online schooling for me. But for now, I'm just not going to talk about, because if I talk about for a second more, I'm going to have a
Freaking aneurysm.
Either way, I'm going to be continuing back to uploading consistently, especially since it's been over a year since I've uploaded and I've more than doubled the subscribers that I've gotten. So thank you for that. And also, thank you for giving me a video, actually 2 videos with over 20,000 views, which is crazy. So yeah, tell me your thoughts about online schooling and your experience and stuff. And with that out of the way, SavageHerobrine out.